Presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Know your role and shut your mouth, you jabroni!
Fires upfield into the end zone. It is caught. Jelani Woods, touchdown! INDY!
A 43-point night for Tyrese Halliburton.
How do you like that, partner?
Galloway drives all the way to the hole, throws it up, got it! Indiana's got their first lead of this contest. It's pretty simple. I win. Google me.
Now, here's your host, Jim Coyle.
Hey, peeps, how is it going? Welcome aboard Indiana Sports Beat Radio on this Thursday. Grateful to have you along for the ride. And it is Happy Leap Day. Especially any birthdays out there. What are you, like 6 now? Crazy day.
It's an extra day. What are you going to do with it, Jimbo?
Well, if I got to do what I'd like to do with it, I would have just slept all day.
A day of rest.
It would have been that would have been glorious, especially getting back late. I was down in Princeton, Indiana last night. Took in some Indiana high school tournament action.
Oh, yeah, I saw you were hanging out with Matt Painter. Not literally,
Well, I
but
would
he was
not
in your
say
vicinity.
Yes. He was over my left shoulder. Great point to bring up, though. Yeah, went down, watched Trent Sisley play and Heritage Hills. Unfortunately for those guys, they took an L to Princeton. Great job by Princeton getting the win. It was all Trent Sisley for Heritage Hills. Unfortunately, he did not get enough help. He had, I think, 27 points. I can't remember, 24 points, something like that. But it was all him, and he needs some help. But yes, Matt Painter was there, just sitting in the crowd by himself. Yes, it's a very it's a different type of recruitment than from when I was there last time watching those guys, and all 3 of them were there. 2 of them were just sitting in the stands watching. Mike Whitson was down in the corner where everybody was able to see him, signed a lot of autographs, took a lot of pictures. But yeah, that's the recruiting world. But Matt Painter was out after it last night, down there, taking it in. Indiana sectional action going on around the state as well. I may try to take another game in this weekend. We'll have to see what we can work up. But yeah, hump day and leap day followed one another. How about that? Good catch, Justin. A lot of days. And then you get Friday. Maybe the most important day. Friday becomes after that is Saturday. Hope everyone's having a great day. Appreciate you. On the program today, Shannon Griffith will join us. We'll talk some Indiana football. Those of you listening on our good friends up in Fort Wayne on 1380 The Fan, you know him well. I think you'll hear him tomorrow on the Sports Rush, as a matter of fact, immediately after Indiana Sports Beat Radio. But also on the program today, Tyler Smith from thehoosier.com. Get caught up on Indiana basketball. And Chris Denari, the Pacers. Boy, they had a game that they had in their control, and then all of a sudden it was not in their control. And I'm like, are you kidding me? Are they going to allow this collapse? A game they let get down to 3 points and then separated again right at the end. But look forward to talking to Chris Denari about that. And, of course, each and every one of you on the Andy Moore Honda hotline. Of course, Indiana Sports Beat Radio, powered by Andy Moore. Just go to andymoorehonda.com to get more to your door and the best in new and used vehicles. And our friends over at Hoosier Hanks East, where you can find after the game with Todd Leary, after each Indiana game, most 90% of the games, depending upon, as long as they're not too late. Fred, how are you, sir? Brian, Buffalo Bill, appreciate you. Michael's on. John, Forrest, Shenanigans, Justin, Five Lefts. Hello, Miss Cheryl Sizemore. Jamie, up in Grand Rapids. Robert, great crowd already. You guys are just at it. Brian says the Pacers had a 40-point first quarter. After that, it was a little shaky. It held on for a win. You're right, boy. Holding on is the right key. I did not see the opening part of the game. That's a lot of points, guys. Oh, that's a 160-point pace. But it slowed down a little bit. Philip, how are you, sir? A lot of time to go right now. Philip says, kind of sounds like Jim is giving Trent a crystal ball to Purdue. No, just pointing things out when I see them. I've been there twice, or I've seen him twice. Matt Painter's been there both times. Just pointing that out. But yeah, those things can be taken however people take them. Hatman, how are you, sir? Checking in from Bruton, Alabama. All right. And for all of our fine friends on Indiana radio, when you hear me talk about people listening in from parts out around the country or around the world, for that matter, with Oman, Fozan from Jordan, they're catching us on YouTube, which you could also make sure you subscribe to, because there's tons of content on there, post game, other interviews from trips like last night, which I did not do any interviews last night. But just hit the subscribe button. And while you're at it, hit the like button as well. Appreciate everybody. But yeah, I hate to see it. Fortunately for Trent Sisley, it's his junior year, and he'll come back for another season to go at it. Hate to see the sectional round. It sucks to go out in that round. But still plenty of action going around the state. You got Seymour and plenty of other venues that will be hopping. Ooh, John, that's a new word. How about that? Hopping. Kind of cross
So it's
happening and hopping.
Hopping, yeah.
No, happening.
It's happening.
It's happening.
It also sounds like you're trying to say happening with an accent. Like, it's happening. I don't know what the accent would be.
Like Austrian or something. It's happening, baby. It's like a good neighbor. It's a good neighbor. That's what I said, neighbor. That's a pretty funny commercial.
That is a good one. That's a top tier Super Bowl commercial from this season.
Neighbor. Anytime someone makes fun of themselves, it's usually pretty funny. And that is definitely him making fun of himself. Yeah, Zion. Brian says the Pelicans have some players. That's who the Pacers held on to beat last night. Big Z Zion is with him. He says Matherin gave him an ulcer. He missed so many shots at the rim. Yeah, everybody's not going to be on every night. Let's see the other comments. Make sure I don't hit it. Ryan, how are you, sir? Appreciate you being along. Illinois, how about that score? 105-97 over Minnesota. I don't see how Minnesota can. First of all, how Illinois allowed Minnesota to score 97 points, but obviously that was a high-paced game. With both teams combining to go over 200 points. Minnesota is not a team you generally see that out of, but if that is the pace of the game, obviously it was, then it gets up. It gets up there, and it did. Sean says Painter is watching Sicily, taking photos with fans, shaking hands, and letting people be very aware he was there. Yes, I did get a photo, but I just took a photo. It was just being funny. He was over my left shoulder, so I took a quasi selfie with him over my left shoulder. But yeah, but that's exactly it. I don't know that he was doing that. I didn't see him really. He was pretty much left alone. He just sat there and ate his popcorn and took it in. We've got lots more coming up. Shannon Griffith joins us next. Switch the topics to football. Football in February? That's right. It's a year-round sport in Bloomington now and across the Big Ten. We'll be back with more Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Appreciate you being with us right after this.
We'll be right back for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
All
right, go fix that smoke detector. If you have a minute. There you go. Morning, Shannon.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm doing well. Hopefully you're doing well too.
Yeah, doing great. Just a crazy week last couple weeks. Travel.
Oh yeah.
You know that real work job gets in the way all the time.
What is your real work job?
I am a major gift fundraiser at Hanover College now. And all I do is I'm a remote. I work from my home. I'm not physically on the campus per se, but I got hired on there last April and left good old Manchester University after 18 years. But yeah, that's my day job.
Have you ever wanted to do something like this full time, the radio or broadcasting?
Yeah. I mean, I do, a lot of high school broadcasting up here in the Northeast Indiana area. And me and another guy have a podcast that covers Northeast Indiana football during the football season.
Oh, okay.
It's called a Pawn Further Review. And so, yeah, we cover it pretty extensively. But, I do the color on Friday night games and all that good stuff. This gives me the chance to be undefeated all the time and say I'm right. Just like Lee Corso would say.
Yeah.
Undefeated. No, it keeps me connected, though. That's the nice thing. It's good to, I miss it sometimes just because of Saturday afternoons, but there's a lot of stuff I don't miss. So,
yeah,
this keeps me connected.
I see this talk of expanding the playoff even further is kind of annoying, if I'm being honest. The 14 team stuff that they're flirting with.
It's all because of the money. Those teams
that is, and even more so is the talk of NCAA tournament expansion, the 96 teams.
I know.
It seems egregious.
That is not broken. There's no need to fix the basketball tournament. It's not broken. The football, you can argue, you're still going to have the argument 12 is not enough because there's always going to be one or two teams that are going to say we should have been in instead of so-and-so. But that
Real quick, we got to come back from break.
Okay.
We got a few seconds. It's my fault.
Butcher, baker, and fish house, no matter where you live.
This segment is brought to you by The Chop Shop.
home of the Indiana football and men's basketball coaches shows. Welcome back to Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Welcome back, everybody, on this Thursday. I hope you're having a good one and a good week. Shannon Griffith joins us now from Hoosier Tailgate. How are things in the football world? We've got the combine going on right now down in Indianapolis. This has been too busy of a week.
Yeah, it's crazy right now.
But not a lot of locals, as you would say. Indiana had one, Aaron Casey, that I know was going to be working out. Purdue, I'm not sure. I would doubt they didn't have anybody because they didn't really they went through the portal and all that stuff, so they're under kind of a new regime there, but not a lot of local talent, I don't think, this year.
Not off the top of my head can I think of much, but you're always surprised as from the standpoint of all of a sudden there's a kid that pops up that you weren't thinking of and impresses at the combine and raises his draft stock. Yeah, but it's a busy week. You know, I'm sure there's a lot of coaches in regards probably trying to take in the combine, or at least we used to be able to do that. And prior to, you know, the spring breaks and the start of spring football, because it's right here now. And there's still a lot of things in football that are still going on. We were talking there in break about the college football playoff expansion from 12 to 14 already. We haven't even got to 12, and they're already talking about moving it to 14.
This was the other day. This was a point that I was kind of banging on. You remember the day when it was just two? They would get down to the two. But we can't change this for 10 years. We'd like to go to 4 teams, but it's just impossible to do that right now. And then eventually they get to 4 teams, and well, you know, we'd like to maybe go to 8 one day, but that's just impossible to do right now. It's just not going to. Well, hell, let's just do 12.
Yeah.
Well, hell, let's just do 16. Let's just make it up as we go. Now all of a sudden, this thing that. It was because of the monopoly they did not want to relinquish. They knew what they had. It's just funny how easily playoffs are expanding now.
Yeah.
Yet it was like it would take an act of God before for that to happen. It was like, you know, we're talking about college football. Everybody else has playoffs. Why can't you have a playoff system and it not take 10 years to implement?
Yeah. If they go to this 14 or 16 team playoff format, I don't see how they can play the amount of games during the year on top of playing these additional playoff games. I mean, I'd have to sit down and calculate what or how many a team, you know, may play if you added more teams to the playoff. Now, I think the FCS, if I'm not mistaken, they are a 16-team playoff, if that is correct. So they've got a body of evidence that proves that, yes, you can do this, but it may require them to relinquish playing a home game or a money game at home in the near future. Now, is those teams going to want to do that? But this goes all back to how many teams from our conference can get in. You know, the SEC is probably down there saying, hey, our 4th best team's better than any of your 2nd best teams.
And that's just going on the fact that we're the SEC. And there's never a down year in the SEC. And there's probably truth to that. But my point with that is I agree with that, but if that is the case, then they'll get in.
Right.
And it's never been a problem. Have we ever had a problem seeing 5 SEC teams in the top 20 or top 15 or top 10 for that matter? God knows. No. So they're going to get in. Has there ever been a problem of Ohio State, Michigan, Penn State being ranked in addition to some of the teams that are coming? No. It's everybody's trying to line up and get their pile to make sure we got our pile no matter what.
Well, they're all scared to death of what happened or what everybody assumes happened to Florida State this year. You know, that's what scares everybody now, is that there's a team that all of a sudden was left out based upon a quarterback that was injured and not playing. However, they won their conference championship and they were left off the final tally. So that scares everybody. So now you talk about 12 teams, then 14 is not going to be good enough, because then there's going to be the want to desire to get 2 more. And it, like you said, it all has to do with the number of teams that get in from a conference is going to monopolize the distribution of money back to the conference that ultimately gets shared amongst the members. And it's kind of the same way in the basketball scenario. I mean, we also talk about the idea of them going to 96 teams in basketball. Well, that's not broken. 64 is plenty. I mean, you've got a proven track record that it's not broken. College football, in terms of deciding a national championship, has been, in some respects, a broken record when it comes to, are we doing the right thing by only having 4 teams or 8 teams or 12 teams to determine who is the best college team at the end of the year? I think we can all agree that the 1, 2, or the top 4 teams maybe in the country ultimately are going to be better than anything that's below them. I think it's, in some respects, that's going to be proven out over time, and a high probability that there's 2 from a conference or more. But yeah, I don't know what the answer is to stop the craziness of saying 12's not enough or 14's not enough. But I think the more they start talking about extending the playoffs, you're going to have to give up potentially of a home game, money game, in order to do that. Otherwise, you're talking, playing well into the January aspect of everything. And we've already seen the Super Bowls now being played in February. I remember the Super Bowl being played in January, a few years ago. I'm not going to age myself here, but you're well into February with the NFL Super Bowl.
Well, on top of that, there is the talk of college basketball tournament expansion.
Yeah.
Why? You've got 60 freaking 8 teams in the damn thing. 68. That's enough.
Yeah.
There's not, well, it should be 64, but 68
right.
And 64 was enough. That add in is that's a ridiculous game.
Yeah.
In my opinion, it's just totally ridiculous. It's ridiculous. It's just ridiculous to put that on the teams, of the fans not knowing anything about travel, and bam, it's stupid. But anyway, college football is just, they're trying to gobble up their little piece, and they're gonna leave everybody else behind. And fans of the SEC, the Big Ten, won't care for obvious reasons, but there's just a lot going on out there in college football that is not just the SEC or the Big Ten.
The flip side to think about this too is how this is going to impact the ability with the NIL. How is this money distributing to help the NIL aspect of things? Because now that equation equates to, for generation of money and funds. Does that help institutions with that part of the equation. Even if we get to that point where they start saying, okay, they're employees and we're going to put them on contract and this is what they're going to get paid, blah, blah, blah. Well, you got to have a revenue stream to do that by expanding the playoffs. Does that, I guess I would assume that is the conversation and topic of conversation as it pertains to expansion. Right, wrong, and different. We'll have to see. But I agree with you on the basketball stuff. That's not broken. Tell me why it's broken. That's the thing that I would say. It's all for the sake. Okay, it's the trophy game. If you want everybody to get in the tournament, then do it like Indiana high school football. At the end of the year, everybody gets one game in the playoffs, and if you go as far as you can go, God bless you. But my God, you're going to have to only play 8 or 9 games of a football season, and you're going to, it's not going to be good enough. But we shall see what they do.
Why play the regular season?
Well, exactly. Because if you're going to put everybody in, the only thing you're playing for is to get yourself ready and good enough for the tournament.
Yeah, why play the regular season? Why play the conference? Why have a conference champion? Why have a conference tournament championship? You're having all this stuff that means nothing because you're getting in, other than seeding.
Yeah, right.
And but we can sit here and complain about it all we want. But guess what?
We're not going to solve it.
If it's going to change, it's going to change.
Right.
And if it's going to change, like everybody else, we're going to have to deal with it. And it is what it is. Mm-hmm. And there's always going to be change. Always going to be change. And there's always going to be change that we all don't like or don't agree on or whatever. Unfortunately, that change has just been magnified within the last 5 years. And it's just they're changes that none of us are used to because they're gigantic in proportion to the rest of the history of college athletics.
Yeah. And I think we always want the question to the answer of why. And sometimes that is not always explained well, in the sense that
I'm going to enjoy that one. I put up a comment from Justin. I've never heard that one. He says, Jimmy, you got honey in your voice today. Wow.
Appreciate that. Even without your major audio component, probably your roadcaster.
Oh yeah. I don't even use that thing. I've never even used that thing.
But yeah, we're not going to solve the answer to the question why. That's why they have people in upper echelons of the NCAA. And I've been a part of that. I've been a part of that with Division III national championship as a representative to the NCAA for a region. And, we had a pretty broad based in that. But the thing of it is, if they do expand it, I guess it gives the opportunity to get more teams in to the playoffs, and how that may or may not impact a school like Indiana, because instead of saying you have to win the championship, maybe it's if you're in the top 4 in the Big Ten, you get a seat at the table. So that's the only reason I can think of that may or may not have an impact on how many games they decide to ultimately play. But I just don't see them being able to play a 12 conference season and then start a tournament that you got 14 teams in.
Yeah. How many teams? But this is going to benefit some ancillary programs that can make it in. Lance Leopold, Kansas.
Yeah. Right.
Look at that program. They're on the upswing. Kansas has the second most losses in all of Division I football.
He just got paid $7 million to be exact.
$7 million a year. That's up there. Yeah. That's in that next level category.
I've worked with Lance. I know Lance Leipold very well, and darn good football coach. I'll tell you that right now.
And he's got a hell of a run at Kansas already. Yeah, he had a hell of a run at Buffalo, right?
Mm-hmm.
Came from Buffalo.
He was unbelievable at Wisconsin Whitewater in the Wisconsin League of Division III, which for up there, that's more like the 1AA leagues that you see down this way, because up in Wisconsin, they don't have other Division I teams outside of University of Wisconsin. But he did a tremendous job there. He went to Buffalo and won. He's taken his philosophy, gone to Kansas and turned a program that has been so bad and so dormant for a number of years. You wondered if they were ever going to turn the corner or they were just going to have to drop football altogether. He's gone in there and done things there that nobody gave him credit for. But you're correct, as it pertains to Kansas on an overall perspective, when you look at it, not very good. Now they're better. Rising up in the division, and now for them, honestly, they've got a viable option there of getting potentially into the tournament if they expand it to 14 teams. And that would be a hell of an accomplishment for Lance Leipold. But I also think it does create a little bit of a possibility in the Big Ten as well. And you've got to be those teams that are vying for those, maybe that fourth spot within the Big Ten. But like you said, we're not going to solve it. We're just going to sit here and talk about it. And
the Big Ten has got to, just like in basketball, the Big Ten has got to step up. They're not getting it done right now. We'll talk about that when we come back. We'll take a quick break. Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Shannon Griffith with us. You can catch him frequently immediately after Indiana Sports Beat Radio if you're in the Fort Wayne area on 1380 The Fan. We'll be back with more, brought to you by our good friends at Chop Shop Market and Table, where also each Monday night you can find Don Fisher and Inside Indiana Men's Basketball, in addition to some great food, meats, bakery, restaurant. Also by Wagyu. You ever had Wagyu steak?
I have. Yes, I have.
Tasty stuff. The Voiles family Wagyu farm right down the road in Mitchell, Indiana. Freshly, just farm to table, baby. Yep, but you could also pick up some Wagyu steaks there at Chop Shop. Back with more right after this.
We'll be right back for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
If you're looking for all right, this was not the right smoke detector I grabbed.
I've seen a couple questions scroll by the comments here.
Oh yeah,
yeah. Number one, yes, Woody Harrelson went to Hanover College back in the day.
Yes, that is something
that. Yeah. Head coach at Notre Dame. The head coach at Notre Dame is a Hanover grad, Shrewsbury. Oh my God! So, I think I answered a couple of those questions that I saw scrolling by.
There you go.
Oh, I get a lot of questions about the music in the background. Yes, I do play. I am not very good, but it just looks good.
Who do you listen to a lot of music?
I'm a country guy at heart.
Okay.
I mean, it's not to say that I'm not a 80s rock guy either. You know, back in the heydays of the 80s and the hair bands and all that good stuff and Van Halen and all that. So I have a little taste for both sides of the table and the music stuff, but I've played off and on guitar for better part of 15, 20 years. And like I said, I'm not all that great at it, but sometimes when you're just bored and you can't find what to do, it's not a bad idea. You can sit down there and strum it out. And with YouTube nowadays, you can find about anything and everything to teach you how to play.
That's true.
I mean, that's the beauty.
I don't know how to play, but it wouldn't surprise me if I've always told myself, and this is probably a bit of an exaggeration, but I always told myself if I had a midlife crisis, I'd probably buy a really expensive guitar and try to teach myself how to play.
Absolutely. Go right ahead.
I have tried to play the damn guitar, and I think because I'm ADHD, I can't. Of course, I've never had lessons or anything. But you hear people all the time, oh no, I never took a lesson. I just listened to it by ear.
Yeah.
And I'm like going, That's some bullshit, man.
Yeah, there's some talented people out there that can do things by by hearing it, and those people always amaze me.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the same thing. I do woodworking as well. Build things, all that good stuff, cutting boards and all that.
He's a Renaissance man, people.
And then some people can just go out and visualize what they want to do and build it. I'm like, I can't do that. I got to see a picture of written words, the video.
Here we go, guys. 10 seconds.
Financing for 36 months on a 2023 Honda Ridgeline. Go to AndyMooreHonda.com and get more to your door.
This segment is brought to you by Remax Advanced Realty, Indie Home Pros team by Cheryl Sizemore. Welcome back to Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Hey, welcome back. Appreciate everybody being along for the ride today here on Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Jim Coyle with you as always. Shannon Griffith, as well as we're talking Big Ten football. Purdue and Indiana, similar situations, although Purdue will be in the second year of a new regime. Indiana, of course, in the first year of a new regime. And I know that if it's a Purdue fan that hears this, they're going to take this as a slight, and it's not. But I get the sense that Indiana is much further ahead going into year one of the new regime than Purdue was going into year one, and the results that came from that season at Purdue, it looked like a year one deal. It's not, I'm not getting on them. It was typical, but I get a different sensation with the Indiana situation. And part of that involves the schedule and looking at all that and how that will lay out. The fact that Curt Cignetti is a proven winner already as a head coach, that's another difference. You brought an intact staff in place, ready to go, that has also coached in the same system. I mean, the mere fact that he has all these assistants that have been with him this long, I know that they were mostly assistants at mid-level colleges, schools, but it doesn't matter. It's that linear thinking that they're all on the same page. And not to take a swipe at IU basketball, but I look at that situation. You got a new coach that comes in and he just keeps the staff from the old regime who got fired for losing. Just very, very different scenarios. But I think that Indiana is ahead of Purdue, of where Purdue was, and I'm just using that as an example. It's not a slight. I have no idea what Purdue is going to be like this year. We'll talk about that in a second. But what do you agree, disagree there, other on that?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is what you just pointed out, is that Indiana hired an experienced head coach who already has a tried and true protocol for what and how he likes to run a program, from assistant coaches down to the type of players that he likes to involve in his program. Ryan Walters was a guy that was a defensive coordinator. He's young, so he's not had as much experience sitting at the head of the table in the conference room. And again, that's not a slight against Ryan Walters, because I think he's a darn good football coach and a defensive coach at that. But there is a difference between somebody that has experience versus somebody that's coming in fresh off of just being a coordinator. It is a night and day move from being an assistant or a coordinator to being the guy that's at the end of the table where all the decisions you're going to make. But I do think that's probably where you get that maybe security blanket per se, with having a guy like Coach Cignetti come in as the head coach at Indiana. And I think you'd have had the same, even if it wasn't, let's just say, Coach Signetti. You know, it was another head coach, because I think what you see is a very in tune, organized. This is the way we do it. This is how we're going to do it, versus a guy that's trying to say, I'm trying to get my staff in line. Then we'll talk about how we're going to do it and things of that nature.
Yeah, and it's going to be interesting to see how that manifests itself come September. I just, again, because of the schedule, there's never been a schedule laid out for a new head coach ever in the history of college football like this one has been laid out for Indiana, and in a conference like the Big Ten. It's now on paper it's easy to say that because, and I say that because UCLA new coach, Washington new coach, 8 home games, everything is backloaded as far as the meat of their schedule. And that is just Michigan and Ohio State, or Michigan and is it Michigan and Ohio State?
What's that?
On the schedule at the end of the year.
I think it's Michigan. Yeah.
Well, then they play somebody else of that caliber as well. But anyway, I don't have it pulled up in front of me. But it's like 2 out of the last 3 games of the season, which that's momentum. You can just have so much going by then that who knows?
You're right. They play Michigan and Ohio State back-to-back, November 9th, November 23rd.
How about that? Michigan and Ohio State back-to-back games, first of all.
Yeah, that in itself right there is a killer. They play Michigan at home; they're one of the 8, and they play Ohio State in Columbus, and that's the week before. That's going to be a week before the Purdue game. So
guess what? I just now realized yet another coaching change. I know it's Michigan who just won a national championship,
right?
But you still have a coaching change. So now you've got 3 teams on the schedule that have had coaching changes, and you're also a coaching change program.
Yep. Yeah, and that's in defense of all those, I think you probably say Michigan is the one that's a half coaching change, since Sharon Moore was there and in place, and the only reason why he's had to replace coaches is because they've mostly gone with Harbaugh to the Chargers. But that's a gauntlet when you look at it and say, yeah, they got 8 home games, but at the end of the year, you're talking Michigan, Ohio State, and Purdue. And the one thing that you don't want to get into there is saying you got to win 2 or 3 of those to get to a bowl game.
Oh, no. if you're at that point, man, things are not good.
Yeah.
But I think that by the time that rolls around, I think that issue will already have been put to bed.
Yeah, you can look at it. Northwestern, new coach. Michigan State, new coach. Washington, new coach.
I forgot about Michigan State.
Yeah.
Gee whiz.
Michigan, a new coach. Purdue, second-year head coach. Nebraska, second-year head coach, I believe.
So we're talking 5 or the 6 teams.
Yeah, UCLA, new coach. So there was a lot of change. Yeah, there was a lot of change in the Big Ten alone, and part of that change is felt because they've expanded. So you're going to see a lot of new faces and a lot of young new faces at the head coaching arena. Again, you take Nebraska, for instance, okay? They go out and hire a experienced college coach, NFL coach, where he has had a track record of winning, especially in college, and he's got them molded into, I think you're going to see a big jump with Nebraska this year based upon what he has in store, what he did this year with what he had. And
another new coach, second-year coach.
Right. And he's in that regard, again, these coaches that have experience in what they are, and they've sat at the end of the table, they've made the tough decision. They have an idea of how they're going to run a program from A to Z. That's not to say that the young guys don't have that same incentive or idea of how they're going to run a program. The difference is those coaches that have experience sitting at the end of the table been there, done that. So they've been able to shape and adjust their philosophy because they've either had experience that doesn't work, or I need to think about doing this better because I was wrong. That all comes with experience. That all comes with going through seasons and coaches and finding the correct mix. So that's why you see a team like Nebraska now starting to get themselves into a better arena. Now, some people are going to say, well, look, they hired Scott Frost out of, Scott Frost won at Central Florida. I mean, yeah, give him credit. He was still a young coach going into Nebraska. I mean, there's a big difference to me with Scott Frost and what, is in place. So it's going to be an interesting season in the Big Ten, just from the standpoint of all the new faces, the new teams. Hear that. I mean, Ohio State's got to be feeling pretty good. Their nemesis at Michigan is left. You've got all these coaching changes. They get I'm a little surprised at the hire at, offensive coordinator Chip Kelly leaving UCLA head coaching job to be the offensive coordinator at Ohio State.
That tells you how bad things are to be the coach at UCLA in this new era of college football. I think a big part of that is NIL. And it's not that they cannot afford, that they don't have money in Los Angeles. Nobody gives a crap about college football in Los. They do, but it's such a small portion of the small segment of the society and you've got USC. Yeah, that's the big neither problem. Of them are killing it in NIL, are they? But yeah, you've got the juggernaut USC that has kind of stepped up and he's like, yeah, I'm tired of fighting this battle. And it's a battle that is maybe LA is not as big a draw as it used to be.
Yeah. Well, there's two things there that make UCLA a tough job. You can't live in Pasadena. It's too expensive. So you got guys living 45 minutes to an hour away based on pond traffic. That doesn't help things. But I'm just interested to see the dynamic of how Ryan Day and Chip Kelly get along. As that dynamic, you got two head coaches, essentially offensive-minded guys. So, I look back at Indiana. I think we're going to see a lot of things that are going to develop out of spring practice. If I think they can make a decision on some of the positions and set a course forward, I think, going into the summer and then up into fall camp, coming into settled positions, I think you're going to see remarkable improvement week to week. I don't think you can be bogged down at the quarterback position on who the guy is. I think you have to have a guy. And I do believe Coach Cignetti will have a guy. And I think they'll come out of spring with that. Now, he's not going to tell us who the guy is until up to, 11:58 on a noon kickoff. But I do think you're going to see a more orchestrated, a more defined, a more focal point type of program with Coach Cignetti. And I do think in the long run, that will pay off on a lot of fronts. I hope there's instant success. I hope the 8-game schedule gets them into a situation where it catapults them into I can't be beat mentality. And it gets them to having a great year in, proving some naysayers wrong, maybe, but we'll have to see. But I think just because of this, the fact that he's a experienced head coach bodes well for Indiana when it comes to putting on a team out on the field that's going to be ultra competitive, because I think they've shown that over the years. We just need them to get over that hump.
Oh, not allowed to say that. That's John. John. When somebody says that, there should be lights and bells that go off, and
what?
Like
Shannon. So among Indiana basketball fans, saying over the hump is a bad word amongst Indiana basketball fans right now, because
I didn't say
Mike Woodson says it all of the time. Honestly, it's really funny that you said it, but whenever it's like a PTSD thing for Indiana basketball fans right now. Honestly,
yeah. Well, that are the thick of things. We're in the thick of things, and it's week, 15. But let's give Indiana some credit, guys. Now, they did have a big win against Wisconsin. They showed some resiliency. They showed some mental toughness, which I haven't seen all year. Now, let's not get over hype because it was a one win. You need some validation.
Oh, don't worry. There's nobody overhyping. I promise you. That is not a concern that you need to have.
That was one of the topics yesterday I talked about on the Sports Rush was, give Indiana a pat on the back, but let's not hand them the red carpet treatment all the way through the Big Ten tourney. They got to prove it, and I'll pick up on it tomorrow when I sit in for Brett Rump once again.
Yeah, I look forward to that. Yeah, I'm just laughing. It's funny. Yeah, boy.
Note, over the hump is not a word that you can say on Indiana Sports Beat Radio.
Well, no, it's not a word that Indiana fans will like to hear, or a phrase that Indiana fans want to hear in general. Because I'm assuming most Indiana football fans are basketball fans. So
I don't think
it's something
would use that.
There you go. The smoke detector should beep when someone says over the hump. It's going to take more than that. Finally got that thing figured out and fixed. Yeah, that was a hump that kept growing. A hump turned from a hump to a hill to a mountain, I think.
Well, I'm glad I brought a little levity today. So that
the only thing we missed was a little accompaniment, accoutrement to it. We could have had a little ding. Maybe you have to come up with your own intro song, your own segment intro song.
Well, yeah. With AI today, you can do that pretty easily, and I don't have to do a thing. Hell, you can make a song. You can sing a song with somebody else's voice, but it's yours actually, and make it sound good. So I like that idea.
Well, I would never use anyone else's voice. I would not deprive the people of that. And everybody knows that I am FOS on that one. No one knows I can't sing more so than I know. Trust me on that one, people.
I agree. I am in the same boat with you, brother.
Always a good time. Back on the Sports Rush tomorrow on 1380 The Fan, Fort Wayne's only sports station. Filling in for Brett Rump. Thank you so much, Shannon Griffith, joining us here on Indiana Sports Beat Radio.
Absolutely.
Anything to look forward to for Indiana football fans right now? Next thing?
Well, I'm trying to put some things together on the Hoosier Football Tailgate that kind of takes us into the spring. There's a lot of things both on and off the field that I think are going to, play a part in some of what will happen this spring. The one big one, we even actually talked about this the other day, is the fact that this transfer situation is still an open book on multiple transfers. So you're probably going to see some more movement in the portal, and I wouldn't say that Indiana would be exempt from that, but those are the type of things that we're going to deal with. But anyway, looking forward for spring practice, getting some things started with that, and we'll cover it on the Hoosier Football Tailgate, and hopefully in the next couple of days.
Look forward to it. Shannon Griffith joining us here as always each Thursday. Appreciate you, friend. Have fun tomorrow.
Yes, sir. We'll see you.
We've got more coming up here on Indiana Sports Beat Radio, brought to you by our good friend Cheryl Sizemore. And for those looking for a home in the Indianapolis area, you need Cheryl and her 2 decades of experience. Could be the difference between getting the home you want or not. Reach out to her at Cheryl at IndyHomePros.com. We're back with more Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Tyler Smith from thehoosier.com joins us in the next hour, as does Chris Denari. We'll be back right after this break.
We'll be right back for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
In the mark.
The Humpty Dance, it's your chance. What if Mike Woodson came out of the tunnel on a camel to really sell the getting over the hump thing?
Well, that would require something. That would require one thing.
What?
To actually have to be over the hump.
Well, that's what I'm saying. If he ever gets over the hump, he rides out of the tunnel on a camel with a megaphone and yells, "Well, again, I think we just got over the hump."
Well, it would be funny, but I don't think you're going to have to worry about either of those things actually happening.
All right, Mr. Tyler Smith is here. Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
Welcome to. I was trying to think of something funny, but I don't really have anything. I'm talking about the humps, the Mike Woodson getting over the hump, and I was trying to relate.
My lovely lady humps. Check it out. My humps, my humps, my humps, my humps, my humps. My lovely lady humps.
There's your show intro right there. Make one of those.
That's it.
All right, 30 seconds. Needs. So there couldn't be a better time to build a new home with Property Shore Construction. Now building exclusively south of Bloomington within the Stonecrest Golf community. Choose from one of the gorgeous Stonecrest Signature Series house plans. We have several lots available with scenic views of the golf course. Contact Amy Rhoda with Revesco Real Estate for additional information. 812-583-0919 or go to mystonecrestliving.com. That's mystonecrestliving.com for more details. This segment is brought to you by Reynolds Family Dentistry in Sellersburg. Welcome back to Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio here on this Thursday. You're just that much one day closer to the weekend. Tyler Smith from thehoosier.com joins us right now. And Tyler, sectional basketball play going on in the state of Indiana right now. And normally that would mean a great opportunity for coaches to get out, watch some players. I was down in Princeton, Indiana last night, watched Trent Sisley play, as did Matt Painter from Purdue. No one else was there from any other staff that I was aware of, and would have been. There are games going on all over the place, and recruiting is a little mini recruiting time for these staffs right now.
Yeah, it's. I saw the Notre Dame coach was also at one of the games. So
where was he?
I'm trying to remember. Actually, I know it was. Was it the Greenwood or I can't remember off the top of my head, but I know he was out last night. So yeah, we're not real sure if the staff plans on going anywhere, maybe over the weekend. Of course, they head to Maryland for Sunday's game, but there'll be a lot more.
That'll
games.
be Saturday, so yeah, they're
So
available through Friday night
Yep.
to travel. So not sure if or when they'll be out and about, or if this is the area that they're targeting. To be honest with you, there aren't really much in-state talent that they're targeting, to my knowledge, at least in the upcoming class.
Yeah, and I feel like this time of year we would typically this time of year hear of more names, even if it's not in state. We would just have a wider net of who Indiana's targeting. Obviously some fans
It does,
would say that,
and not hearing that, isn't that a little alarm bell?
Yeah, it's like that viral.
You have one
TikTok
commitment,
guy.
and you don't. There's nothing else in the hopper that you're aware of. Not saying that there is not, but like you just said, normally those names kind of make it through the sifter.
Yeah, you got to cast a wide net. You can't just. They've been burned several times already.
I don't think burned is the right word. I think they've lost is what they've done.
Yeah,
they put all their eggs in one basket and they get beat. There's been a lot of talking about Mike Woodson, a learning curve. He needs to learn with his substitution patterns. I say BS to that. If you're a coach, you recognize when you need to sub, when you don't, how you can sub, that's crazy. Also the recruiting aspect. So basically you've got a staff that is in year 3 that is still learning how to do all this. Come on, man.
Yeah.
That you cannot run a high level Division I program like that.
That's like calling a sophomore in, almost March of his second year of basketball saying like, I don't know, just some of the comments about, I know it's a young team overall on paper, but man, there's a lot of things, a lot of issues there as far as, things that they should have figured out at this point. But yeah, they got to cast a wider net. Maybe they're putting a lot of hope into the portal for the next upcoming season, which obviously is a big part of it. But you would still think at this point we'd be hearing 15, 20 names of who Indiana's connected to. And so we'll see. Maybe they got some stuff cooking that we don't know about, but it's hard to tell at this point.
Yeah, and to be fair, the 24 class is not one in the state of Indiana, is not one that is just lighting the world on fire. Next year is a much bigger class for certain, with quite a few uncommitted guys in that class. Jalen Harrelson, Trent Sisley talked about earlier, and a couple of others, but that's next year. The here and the now is here and it's now. And for those fans that keep wanting to offer a pass, that's great. And I think that's very admirable. It would be great if I could sit here and just say, yeah, everything's going to be great. And I'm going to have to get the name of the character Kevin Bacon played in Animal House, where he's at the end of all the people on rush team. Relax, everything's going to be fine. If I could do that with a clear conscience, I would, but I can't because I would just be sitting here lying. It has to be scary if you're a fan of Indiana basketball and you're looking at what the future is, because usually there is a plan in place, clearly placed, and you know what's going to happen. And the only thing that is known for certain at this point, that is Mike Woodson is coming back.
Yeah, I think a lot of fans would feel quite a bit different. Those who are concerned, they would feel a lot different if there was a bunch of recruits lined up, if there was a bunch of momentum for the future. Then you could say, okay, maybe we can admit that it was one down year with roster turnover, whatever, even though I don't, fully agree with that. But if that plan was in place, if they had, that momentum as I was talking about. So right now they've got one fantastic player who is ready to come next year. And that's great. That's a guy you want to see in the candy stripes for sure. But that's all you've got. And the uncertainty of your own roster of how many guys will hit the portal and go to the NBA and all sorts of other things, issues that come up with that. So not a lot of excitement as far as the plan and what's ahead, unfortunately, with a down year.
Well, what's a bigger problem? Not knowing who you're going to replace the guys that are leaving? Because there are certain players that are not coming back. Xavier Johnson won't be back. Kalel Ware is not in that category, but I'm going to put him in that category. He ain't coming back. Walker it's his last year.
Yep.
He might be those might be the only. Am I missing anyone? I think those
they'll
three.
have to wait on decisions from Galloway and Leal if they want to use their 5th year. But yeah, those other guys are for sure ones.
But that's not something where are they going to go? Now, and I don't mean that disparagingly, but are you really going to pack up and leave to go away for another year? If I just don't see those guys leaving, either one of them. But so there are 3 openings right now that we know are going to be there.
And open
now
scholarship.
Add the open scholarship that's already there. So you already have 4 open spots that you know of, and you only have 1 commitment. So you got 3 holes now. And that's before somebody or somebody's hit the transfer portal. What if that turns into 5, potentially 6 openings?
Yep.
That if that were to happen, man, I don't wait till that happens, but that would not be good for Indiana with the track record they have had on recruiting. People are going to say, oh, but they got Malik Renew, they got Jalen Hood-Schifino, they got yes, but you cannot add 1 piece to a 40-piece puzzle and think that you're close to being done. You have to have all the pieces or the puzzle does not complete. And as you see, they don't play well as a team. Indiana has not been able to provide the production that they've needed this year to be a successful team. So not only are they going to have X number of holes open, they're going to have X number of specific holes open. Guards, shooting guards, things that they were not able to fill last year, they still have to fill. And I don't know if they're going to have better luck this year than they did last year. But when you're relying on luck, that really makes you say, boy, I'm not sure about what's going on there.
Yeah, it can go in a number of different directions. We're talking like today, the last day of February, how different things will look in 2 or 3 months from now. It's just incredible to think about in a short amount of time here. You got these 3 games, you got the Big Ten tournament, and then all of the roster turnover, the whatever rumors come to fruition and guys, exiting or staying or whatever that is. But you need all those pieces, as you said, and then they got to fit because they've filled some pieces and they haven't fit that puzzle. And that's hard to do in one swoop. And then what concerns me is you're going to have another season of the coaching staff saying, like, we got a bunch of new guys. We got to learn. They're young. I mean, if you have that roster turnover, because that's the landscape of the game today, it's going to happen almost on a yearly basis. The Purdue's of the world from this year, that's going to be the exception, not the rule. To have mostly the same team and then add a piece or 2 in the portal, that's not going to happen that often. So especially if you want to compete and you've got guys, going pro. So it's concerning. The bright side of that is if they do hit on some guys, you can see it turning. You can see some momentum if they were to land. But if they don't, I mean, it could be an even worse year. So the possibilities going one way or the other still pretty large on both ends, I think.
Well, and there's a bigger question. What on this staff, what assistant coach has, because we know Woody doesn't, but what assistant coach has a connection with Indiana coaches and players? That's kind of a rhetorical question because it's none. There's none of those 3 assistants have connections with Indiana high school coaches. Not that they don't know them, that they've met them, but they don't have what I call connections. Obviously, if they did, the recruiting scene would be a little different. I mean, Purdue has become the state team of sorts. While that only is the case because they're winning and Indiana is not, Indiana is just a sleeping giant. It's when they're rewoken, they will return to that status, but it's not going to happen just because somebody walks in and has Indiana on their shirt, jacket, whatever. But there's no connection to me between Indiana and Indiana high school athletes right now. And this has gone on. This started at the end of the Tom Crean era. It's kind of part of one of the reasons why he was let go. He kind of had burned his bridges with in the Indiana high school ranks. Archie Miller, he unbelievably has done a better job with in-state talent than Mike Woodson has. No, he did not land the out-of-state guys. He couldn't get those guys to come. He did get Rob Fennessy to come. He got Trace Jackson Davis to come. But part of that is Indiana. But to see Archie Miller have more in-state success is mind-boggling because I don't even want to go there.
You see the tweet about him yesterday from a Rhode Island, I don't know if it was a fan or media member, about Archie Miller. It was, he had another rough one, but yeah, as far as, Indiana recruiting, it's like, you and I have talked about this. It just seems like there's something is missing. And I mean, it may be multiple things, let's be honest, but something has just been off for a while with the program. And as you said, sleeping giant, it can be, can be woken up if the right moves are made and some momentum happens because of the resources and the money and the fan base and all that stuff. But whatever it is it's missing, they got to figure it out quickly because this fan base, I was really impressed Tuesday night. Just an incredible fan base for the circumstances. I mean, it shouldn't surprise me because that's Indiana fans. When they come to games, they're going to be nuts. But this fan base deserves the best that the university can offer. And, they got to figure out the recruiting trail and the portal and all that stuff and figure out how the pieces will fit and soon.
Yeah. And to me, it's the easy route. I see this. Well, it starts at the top. They have taken the easy route, the path of least resistance. And in the opinion, that has been, well, let's just go get the best players. Well, that's great. And that's a fine strategy as long as you're adding to that, because it's not just a singular thing. You cannot just go get player X and say, okay, go. No, there has to be ancillary support around them. There lies the rub. But it's about taking the easy path. And it started from day one for me, in my opinion. Mike kept the staff of the previous regime that was fired for losing. Instead of bringing in his own staff, except for the ones that he was given, and then ultimately both of those guys leave, Dane Fife and Thad Matta. And so now I've said this a million times now. I've never seen a new head coach come in and keep the staff from the previous regime. Mm-hmm. Why on God's green earth would you do that? Yeah. Obviously there was not success, but that was the path of least resistance. That was the easiest thing to do. Recruiting. It's a hard gig, man. Those coaches bust their ass out there in these gyms, traveling, going to all these places. They don't want to be sitting in a stinking gym for, especially AAU stuff. They don't want to be doing that, but they do it. Mm-hmm. Most of them do it because that's the time investment that it takes. And I see Indiana right now as more of a, let's just go get these superstars and the rest will come to us kind of a thing. Well, that ain't happening. That ain't working.
Yep. Yeah, I don't know.
Guess
if Mike Woodson underestimated the parts of the job and the recruiting trail. I mean,
absolutely. When you're away from a game for 40 years and you don't know it.
Yep.
So there's the real lack of there. What's up next for you at thehoosier.com?
Well, we've got some coverage coming up for the Maryland game. There's a couple of things I'd love for fans to check out. The piece on, the fan base in general from Tuesday. Also, if you haven't seen it yet, I think it was a week or so ago, wrote a piece on Indiana University. It shouldn't be this hard, which I know a lot of fans have liked and agreed with. But even if you don't agree with it, it's a good read. But yeah, a lot of stuff coming up as we finish the stretch run here. 3 games left. I feel like Indiana's probably not favored in any, but you could also see them winning a game or 2 out of this. So probably not the one at the barn, but the other 2 are probably winnable.
We'll see. Going to Maryland will be tough. That'll be a tough trip for the Hoosiers before they come back home to finish the season, the regular season against Michigan State in Bloomington. Tyler Smith from thehoosier.com. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
We've got more coming up. Chris Denari from the Pacers says they're off of a win last night. Well, that one got a little tight last night. We'll talk about that and much more right after this break, brought to you by our good friends at Reynolds Family Dentistry. For our friends down in Southern Indiana, you need to go see Dr. J and keep that championship smile. Back with more right after this.
We'll be right back for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Good morning, Chris.
Good morning, guys. How are you?
Good day, sir.
I am good. Let's see.
Well, that game got a little tight last night.
Yeah.
In a hurry.
They made a run, no question. I mean, it was a fun game. Fun game last night. It was good to see him jump out big, and I mean, you knew Zion and those guys would make a run. Oh, and now we got to play him again tomorrow night.
Oh, do you really? I didn't look at the schedule. I didn't look at the.
Yeah, we fly to New Orleans today. Play New Orleans tomorrow. San Antonio Sunday. Wimbyama, and then Dallas next Tuesday. So it's a good road trip. I mean.
Man, I have only been to New Orleans twice, and I thoroughly enjoyed it.
Going out to dinner with Carlisle tonight.
I was going to ask about not that specifically, but about dinner down there tonight. I'll ask it on when we come back. But I was specifically going to ask about dinner spots, favorite dinner spots in New Orleans, and all that. Stuff.
I mean, I'm pretty simple. I'll venture out, but I don't know where we're going to go to a pizza place tonight, I think.
You're going to New Orleans and you're going to a pizza place? What the hell is that, man?
Yeah. I'll have a beignet tomorrow. I'm pretty simple. I don't venture all that far out. I mean, we stay right there.
I now that part I get. It's just a pain in the butt. Especially when a lot of the times those hotels have pretty damn nice restaurants in them.
Yeah. I mean, that's
by the way, Jim, here's the tweet real quick that I sent this to you the other day or yesterday. She didn't see it, but this is the thing that Tyler Smith was saying. Archie Miller has acted like a big shot since he arrived in Kingston, almost as if Indiana never happened. I spoke with several top journalists from Indiana about what went wrong. Defiance and unwillingness to change was a theme, along with the feeling he never unpacked his bags. I thought he would come to
sucked.
Kingston
How about that?
Hungry.
He's terrible.
There's more to it, but check your DMs if you want to read it later. All right,
I did see that you sent me a message. I was thinking it was a response to something. APR financing for 36 months on a 2023 Honda Ridgeline. Go to AndyMooreHonda.com and get more to your door.
This segment is brought to you by Bubba's 33 in Clarksville and Evansville. Pizza, burgers, beer. Welcome back to Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio on this Thursday. Thank you so much for being with us. Chris Denari from the Pacers, hot off of a big win last night against the Pelicans of New Orleans, Zion Williamson, and they get a game that they had complete control of. 40 first quarter points. Man, I thought they were going to score 200. I thought it was going to be like an all-star game. But then I'm watching the end of this game, and all of a sudden I'm like, are you kidding me? Because I'm watching it. I'm watching the walls start to close in, and they get it to 3 points. And I'm like, oh, my God, this is going to be an epic collapse. And then all of a sudden the walls spread back apart, and Quinn was able to – yes, he was able to give a little – he's kind of like Bill Raftery, man. He's got those little quips he sneaks in there that I haven't really noticed before.
Well, and what we saw, when and he's done it most of the year, and he's done it really in a Pacers uniform. Tyrese Halliburton, who, I would say his last couple of games, it's been a struggle. He even said after the game he's been on the struggle bus a little bit, but you can usually count on him in clutch situations. He made the big three to give the Pacers a little spread, as you said, and then 4 straight assists down the stretch. 3 to Pascal Siakam, 1 to Miles Turner. 1 was a tremendous pass out on the perimeter. He threaded the needle between, I think, 2 or 3 Pelicans to get the ball to Siakam. So, it was a really good win against a really good team. They're a top 5 team in the Western Conference. They've got Williamson and McCollum and Brandon Ingram. I mean, this is a very talented team that the Pacers will see again tomorrow night. We go to New Orleans a little bit later today, and that starts a road trip tomorrow night in New Orleans against the Pelicans.
Yeah, looking forward to that. As we talked about the fact that this is the last. It's like a mini season after the All-Star break. It's most sports, the All-Star break comes kind of in the middle, but with the NBA, it's about the 3-quarter mark. So this is kind of like a mini season in which those playoff teams just need to kind of maintain their positioning, stay healthy, and keep doing what they're doing. Then you got some that are in the lower playoff positions that want to either secure or raise their stock.
Well, what's interesting, Jim, is you look at the East, the Pacers, who were in 6th last week when we talked, fell to 8th last night and then won, and they're in 7th, but they're only a game and a half out of 4th. I mean, that 4 through 8 right now is separated by just a couple of games, and that's New York in 4th, Philadelphia, Miami's in 5th, Philadelphia's in 6th, Pacers are in 7th, and then Orlando's in 8th. And the good news is, from a tiebreaker standpoint, the Pacers already own season series wins against New York and Philadelphia. So if you're in a tie with them at the end of the year, you win that tiebreaker. So you're right. There's 20 games left. March is going to be difficult for the Pacers because they play 10 of the 15 on the road. But this has been a pretty good road team this year. They're 14-14 on the road. They've had some good success, beating some good teams on the road. So you're right. Teams are really focused on this stretch run, and especially the Pacers. They're trying to get back to the playoffs for the first time in a few years. They'd rather not be in the play-in. They would take being in the play-in with an opportunity to get to the playoffs. But if you can secure one of those top 6 seeds, you don't have to worry about the play-in tournament.
It's kind of like the Big Ten, man. You don't want to be those last 4 spots.
Yeah.
Indiana's trying to stay out of right now. How much more does that add for playoff teams not having to play in, say, a first round, getting that bye?
Well, there's no question. I mean, you think about what they did when they implemented the play-in tournament, and the Pacers were a part of that a couple of years ago, is 7 and 8 play, 9 and 10. And whoever wins 7 and 8 advances as the number 7 seed, and the loser of that game gets another opportunity to play the winner of 9-10. So if you finish in 7 or 8, you have 2 chances to make the playoffs. If 7 beats 8, then 8 gets home court in the next game against 9 or 10. So it's like a one and done scenario. It's like a conference tournament, like an NCAA tournament, which is far different than what the rest of the playoffs are when they're best of 7. So I think it's added a really good element to the NBA regular season. It's put more teams in competition for those final play-in spots, whereas in years past, maybe if you were 9 or 10 and you were out of it, I'm not going to say you shut it down, but you had players that were injured or whatever. They just didn't play. Now all of these games, especially for those teams, are meaningful. And what it showed, Jim, last year, Miami was in the play-in tournament and made it all the way to the NBA Finals as the number 8 seed. So I think it shows that play-in tournament has worked, and it's been a real impetus to increased interest at the end of the regular season.
And the Pacers have won 3 out of their last 4 right now. That little ding on there was a loss Monday at home to Toronto, which probably was a little unexpected.
Yeah, I mean, I think Toronto's a little bit better team than we give them credit for. They've only won 21 or 22 games. They've made a number of trades. I mean, Pascal Siakam, of course, is with the Pacers. I sort of expect, even though Toronto got beat at home last night by Dallas, I expect them to be in contention for 9 or 10 in the East and have a chance to get into that play-in tournament. I just think they're too talented to have the type of season that they've had. But you're right. That was a disappointing loss coming off a big win against Dallas. But now you have to put that in your rearview mirror. I mean, Rick Carlisle has been one to say, whenever you talk to him, he says, look, I know what's happened in the past and we have to learn for it and from it, but I am focused on what's ahead. And what's ahead for the Pacers are 20 regular season games with a chance to get in the playoffs, and that's how they have to approach it.
Yeah, in that game, Tyrese Halliburton was held to 9 points. I don't know if that was more about him getting others involved because the Pacers still had 5 guys in double figures, but he's still, anytime you see him in single digits, you know that's not something that you want to see.
No, it's only happened 4 times this year, and one of those times was the Boston game when he got hurt in the first half. So you sort of peel that game away. But he's always bounced back with a really good game. He had a 5-point game against Golden State a couple of weeks ago and then orchestrated the win in New York at Madison Square Garden. And I would say that's what happened last night. Even though he did not have a game that we're used to him having, he had 17 points and 13 assists. So it's not like he didn't do a lot of good things. He really didn't play well until, I would say, the fourth quarter. And that's when he's at his best. He had a big 3, made those passes to Pascal Siakam. I mean, he's the guy that if you look at the clutch rankings, Jim, here in the NBA, 2 of the best clutch players are on the Pacers this year. Pascal Siakam has really high numbers in the last 5 minutes of games, and so does Tyrese Halliburton, and they're the 2 guys that delivered for the Pacers last night. I thought the real key, though, was the bench. The bench played very well. And they had 9 players play last night, and all 9 scored at least 8 points. This team is much better when it's got a little bit more balance than we saw on Monday when Mathurin had 34 and Siakam had 27. They just didn't have enough balance. There weren't enough other people engaged in the game. I thought last night from 1 through 9, everybody contributed, not just points, but rebounds, assists, steals, those types of things. I just thought it was a better all-round performance last night by the Pacers than we saw on Monday night.
What can fans expect next?
Well, a 3-game road trip in New Orleans tomorrow night will be an 8 o'clock start Eastern time. And then San Antonio on Sunday, that's a 7 o'clock start Eastern time. And then Tuesday, the road trip will be complete with a rematch against the Dallas Mavericks. So again, March is a month that features 10 of the 15 games on the road. That oftentimes happens because the Pacers have to be on the road for Big Ten men, Big Ten women, but those tournaments are in Minneapolis. The NCAA tournament will be first and second rounds at Gainbridge Fieldhouse in March, and then the boys state finals in March at the end of the month. So that always sort of means March is pack your suitcases and hit the road, and that's what we'll do a little bit later today.
Yeah, and then later this year, up at Hinkle this summer, I should say, little TBT action coming to Indianapolis.
you were lamenting that IU right now does not have a TBT team. I know
Right. Purdue has one.
Butler's going to have one. That's going to be exciting. That's going to be a place to go. The NBA playoffs will be over, and it'll be like, wow, I need to see some basketball. I mean, you'll have the WNBA at Gainbridge Fieldhouse, but it'll be a great chance to go see that TBT at Hinkle Fieldhouse. I'm excited about that.
Yeah. The fact that Indiana does not have one, the first thing is you ask why. Why would a program like that not have with all of the alumni that they have? I will throw this out there that I don't know how many former Butler players are in the league or have been in the league over the last decade. I know for Purdue, it has not been that that's not what they do. They don't put players in the NBA. So is it that they have more players that are able to play at that time? I'm just trying to figure out why Indiana cannot get a TBT.
And I was going to say right
together.
now I'm trying to think. I saw Cody Zeller last night. He did not.
There's 7. I think there's 7 from Indiana in the NBA right now.
Butler has Gordon Hayward. He's the only one right now. I mean, you did have Shelvin Mack, but he's retired. I'm sure he'll play on that team.
Jaden Ivey from Purdue.
Yeah, Jaden Ivey from Purdue. I don't know. That's a great question. I mean, a lot of times some of those teams are hybrid teams, right? It may be a Tennessee team, but they may have somebody that played at Middle Tennessee.
But Indiana shouldn't need that.
No. Indiana has enough players. You need to talk to Jordan Holes when you see him. I mean, you would think Jordan Holes would be somebody that would want to be out there playing. Hey, Calvert looks like he's in great shape.
Yeah, I'm sure that they could. Hell, Indiana could use his shooting right now. What are you talking about? Much less a TBT team.
There's no question. I tell you what, I miss Calvert when he was player development for the Pacers. Just a wonderful person. Great chance for him to go back to his alma mater.
What do you do? What did he do in that role as player development?
What they do is they have an individual that will work with specific players. I mean, all summer long, into the fall, also during the season. And so those guys have a great relationship and one-on-one relationships with particular players. And so, they have a number of those. I think we have 3 or 4 player development coaches alongside our assistant coaches. Gennaro Pargo, who played in the NBA for many years, played at Oklahoma. He's one of our player development coaches. He was alongside Calvert the last few years. So it's a great opportunity for those guys to get one-on-one development in the off season as well as during the season.
Absolutely, man. Well, look forward to catch Chris Denari on Valley Sports and their presentation of the Pacer games. Looking forward to it, man.
All right. We'll talk to you next week.
Chris Denari, thank you so much. We've got more Indiana Sports Beat Radio coming up after this break, brought to you by our friends down in Clarksville. Bubba's 33 right off of I-65. Pizza, burgers, beer. Great place to catch a Pacers game. Boilers, Indiana, whomever. We'll be back with more right after this.
We'll be right back for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
In the
All right.
Thank
guys.
you, friend. Have a great one, brother.
Okay,
Enjoy.
sounds good.
Dang, I forgot to talk about dinner in New Orleans.
Oh, well. We'll relive it next week.
Be better.
All right. See ya.
Da 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 da. Shada-be-da-be-do. All right. All right.
All right. 30 seconds.
Market and Table is located on South Walnut in Bloomington and is your one-stop shop for high-quality meats, bakery items, and now fresh seafood. Chop Shop Market and Table has the largest selection of in-house made products around and everything you need to make a gourmet meal at home. Or pick out a tomahawk steak or a grouper filet and enjoy it cooked to perfection in Chop Shop Steakhouse. Chop Shop Market and Table, a part of the Wild Food Group, is your butcher, baker, and fish house, no matter where you live.
This segment is brought to you by the Ugly Grouper. Welcome back to Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio on this Thursday. Man, we had some great weather last week, and then somebody left the barn door open. It got cold. Frost out there again. Of course, it's still February. So why are you complaining? It's February, even though it's the 29th of February. Oh, daggone it. Forgot to mention the fact of Tyrese Halliburton is a leap year birthday boy. Pete sent it to me and I forgot. So he's just 6 years old. Can you imagine being born on a day that doesn't really exist? I mean, it exists, but kind of. So does that mean you get a quarter of a day every year for your birthday? Curious. NASCAR fans out there, Dale Jr. leaving NBC. Well, it's not as much about leaving NBC as he is moving to Amazon TNT Sports for NASCAR coverage in the middle of the season. A little bit of a surprise, but I'm sure he'll probably make as much money, and that's only for 5 races. But I wouldn't be surprised if he makes as much in those 5 races as he did doing however many he previously had was doing for NBC in their half of the coverage. Amazon just becoming are they going to be the next sports juggernaut because they have the money? I mean, they have got billions and billions of dollars. But just a little note there. I heard him something about that the other day. I didn't understand. I was like, huh. So there you go. Now you know the rest of the story. Topic earlier was Indiana basketball recruiting. We know Michael Shrewsbury from Notre Dame was out last night. I know Matt Painter was out because I saw him last night. I'm not saying Indiana was or was not. I don't know that. I'm not their travel secretary, but I've not heard any reports of that. I'm sure that, and not me, because I'm not the only person talking about this today. Although may have started it last night with that photo that I sent out with Painter sitting behind me, just enjoying his popcorn, watching the game. He kind of was just very nonchalant, but that's how he's been the two times that I've watched Trent Sisley play, and Painter was there both times, but both times I didn't know he was there. He just mingled, or, blended into the crowd. Same with Micah Shrewsbury, blended into the crowd. Indiana did what a lot of coaches do in the AAU circuit, and that is, you got your Indiana gear on and sitting down in the corner. They sat in the corner so everybody would see them, people coming up for autographs and all that, which, that's how it was for Bob Knight. But actually, Bob Knight did this. He would blend. He would just go sit in a spot as well. So, yeah, there's questions to IU's recruiting. Serious questions. Who are they going to get besides a big splash like Liam McNeely, who I don't know what percentage of that is NIL driven, but I can't imagine it's not it's a large part, because he is already considered a one and done. Does that automatically mean that happens? No. But he is already projected as a first round NBA draft pick, and he's still in high school. He'll have to prove that through a year of college. But if that is the case, what is the situation with Indiana and their recruiting? Where are they going? What is the plan? I talked earlier about there are going to be multiple holes for them to fill next year. And they didn't fill them last year. They didn't fill the ones they needed, and they didn't even fill them all. Now you're going to have probably just as many spots you have to fill, and you've got one guy so far. Does that mean you're just counting on the transfer portal? A place that you have not really had, well, they haven't had success. What's the biggest success for Indiana out of the transfer portal?
That's Khalil Ware. I mean, that may be the only.
Oh,
name
yes.
Yeah, that
missed that one. But one, that's good, but that's not close to being enough. And I don't understand people who don't understand the fact that those are major red flags. You cannot complain, well, Indiana lost this, they lost that. So does everybody else. Everybody else loses people to the portal, to the draft, to whatever. And they deal with it, and they go on and continue what they're doing. There's a plan. There is something that's been working. Indiana doesn't have that to fall on. The sad part is, it seems like there is a belief from within that it has been successful, that what is being done is working. And I just disagree with that. Doesn't mean I'm right. I'm always the first person to say that, hey, what do I know? I just form my opinions from the conversations that I have, things that I see. But there's not going to be a change, and I'm not calling for that. It would be pointless. But I just don't, I can't imagine. There does not seem to be a plan. There's just no other way to put it. What the hell is the plan? I don't know that is there anybody on there that could put a plan together? The head coach obviously does not have the familiarity with the college game to formulate that plan. So you usually rely on a long-time assistant that has that experience. Does that person exist on the staff? The assistant coaches of the three? One of your assistant coaches is a rookie who probably works the hardest out of all of them. Or not a rookie. I shouldn't have said that. This is his third season as well, isn't it? First job. Who probably works as hard as or harder than anybody else, but you still have to have not only connections, relationships with the Indiana coaches, Indiana communities, Indiana players. You got to have a product that you can sell. What is it that Indiana is selling? What is it that Indiana is selling to land multiple pieces? Not a piece, not a singular piece, but multiple pieces that come together to form a cohesive unit. What is being done to make that happen? Usually those things are visual. You can see them. You don't have to know everything, but you can see enough of the little pieces that you're like, okay, I can see this, that. I don't know. I don't know what the little pieces are. Who does? I'm not sure that I'm not sure how far back you'd have to go to the hierarchy of knowing that. Again, oh, that's another word I guess you can't say, John. Got to strike that one. Again.
Can't say hierarchy? Why can't we say hierarchy?
No, I said, no, again.
Oh, well, again, yeah.
Well, I didn't say well. That's long.
No, it has to be specifically well again, and it has to be at the beginning of a sentence.
And you know what? It's not. We shouldn't make fun of things like that because everybody has those. Oh, yeah, I have them. I have. I know that I've
noticed. Mine is, and people don't hear it much on this show, but I'll say, "Well, there you go." Whenever I'm transitioning topics on the Out of Touch podcast,
it's your go-to defense mechanism of sorts.
Yeah, I think
it's your go-to bridge.
Do you know what yours is? Your number one, at least in my book, is?
Nope.
You'll know what it is? Looking forward to it.
I would have never gotten that in a million years if you offered to pay me. But I'm like, okay, that's funny. I can't even hearing that. I'm like, all right, it's not registering, but
it's just muscle memory though. That's all it is.
I know. Well, it's just like Don Fisher. At this juncture,
he said, what else does he say?
And
again, we're not making fun of anyone. Yeah, he says without question a bunch.
Without question.
He's one of the best to do it. Everybody has their own crutches.
That's what I'm saying. We all have them. So that's why I was saying, it's not really fair to do that. Just if there was winning happening, that wouldn't be happening.
Well, so is over the hump. Over the hump isn't just something like, do you think he'll be saying that? Like, well, let's just say theoretically that Indiana next season is back to competing for, I don't know, let's just say that they're in contention for like a 5 or a 6 seed. And again, I'm talking theoretically. Is the new hump trying to get to a Big Ten championship? Is he always going to say, we're going to try to get over that
retired.
Hump? You think it'll be retired?
If that were to happen, that would be retired.
I'm sure people would be happy about that.
Because to me, that is a defense mechanism. It's not my fault. I got to get them. I got to help them get over the hump.
Did Tom Allen have anything like that?
It's not that I got to get, but that's another thing before I move forward. That's another thing. It's not that he has to get over the hump. It's not that he has to get over the recruiting hump. It's not that he has to get over the substitution pattern hump. It's not that he has to get over the game management hump. It's I got to help them get over the hump. Just a little something that sticks out. But go ahead. What were you asking me?
I was just asking, did Tom Allen have any defense mechanisms? I feel like Tom Allen was usually good about taking ownership.
Tom Allen spoke so damn fast. I wouldn't. The only thing that I could tell you on that was Leo.
He would say Leo, but that was more of like a signature thing.
I'm laughing because that was the last thing he said. So that's the last thing you heard. He talked so fast. He was always so jacked up.
I feel like he would always say, and again, I like doing this because it's fun, but I don't want people to think we're making fun.
No, absolutely not.
I feel like
because,
he used to
like
always,
I said, I have them.
He used to always say like one word, and like he would talk about grit, toughness.
Oh, well, that was a word. Not only he had a word of the
year, but he would have a word of the week or whatever.
Yeah, word of the year, whatever. But that's different. So no, I don't think
maybe
he really
wasn't.
did.
And plus, Tom Allen would always take responsibility for even if
absolutely did. Absolutely he did. But I don't think he did. He didn't have any.
It will be interesting to see what little. I mean, we already know a little bit about Kurt Cignetti, but it'll be interesting to see the more pressers he does, how he if he has any things that he says commonly or other mannerisms he may reveal to us.
Yeah, we'll look forward to that.
That's right. See, now you'll think about it. Because once somebody mentioned to me what I did, and mine's a little less fun than looking forward to it. Mine's just, well, there you go. You think about it a little more.
Yeah, well, it's hard not to, I guess, sometimes. But that stuff happens when you're in the heat of doing things, and because your mind is going in 4 different directions all the time.
Brian's saying he wants to see how Sig reacts after they lose. I feel like he'll be a hothead, especially if they lose and it's not pretty looking, or if it's maybe a contentious, maybe 1 or 2 things happen why you didn't win the game. I think he will be a character in post-game press conferences.
Character. I'm not sure character is the word that comes to mind. I think that you accurately had it first.
This may be I don't mean to compare him to him in terms of this guy's coaching prowess, but I think he will be very similar to a Rick Pitino, like holding court style of press conference. Like it's going to be about him, and not that I'm not saying Cignetti is a selfish human being, but he will be the attention. The attention. Everyone's eyes will be on what he is going to say because he's the kind of guy that just demands your attention when he speaks to people. At least that's the way that he comes off.
Yeah. Without question.
Without question. What's the other one then?
At this juncture.
At this juncture. He doesn't say that one as much. At least I don't catch it as much.
Oh, it's it's just like anything. If you could today, if I said red Mustang, you'll go out and see 5 freaking red Mustangs today, and you're like,
yeah,
I cannot believe I never noticed that there were this many red Mustangs. That happens all the time.
Yeah,
to me.
One other one I have, and then I know we got to wrap this thing up. I'll say, and that kind of thing at the end of a sentence, or if I'm trying to get my way out of what I'm talking about, if I'm trying to move on to the next thing, I'll describe it and just say, and that kind of thing at the very end of what I'm talking about.
I wish that I had a grouper sandwich from the Ugly Grouper and that kind of thing right now. I can tell you that.
A grouper sandwich sounds fantastic.
Blackened grouper sandwich. They have grouper sandwiches at Chop Shop Market and Table. As a matter of fact, it's one of they have daily specials, dinner specials. And I think it might be Friday. I can't remember. I need to get a menu. But I haven't had it because I'm always there on Mondays. And I keep telling them, you need to rotate your specials, man. I want to get something different. But I do anyway. They took my Reuben off the menu, but it's coming back, I think. Speaking of coming back, we'll be back tomorrow to do this all over again. Bob Kravitz returns think he was on vacation last week. Always looking forward to talking to
He
our
was playing
buddy
golf
Bob.
out in Washington State. Yeah.
Oh, well,
We'll
cool.
ask
You
him
know,
about
my
that
last
tomorrow.
my last TV job was in Washington State.
There you go. Good talking.
Felt like I was
Start off
living on
tomorrow.
another country because it was so far away. But Zach Osterman, also from the Indy Star, will join us, and Casey Bartley, at least from Boiler Upload. Plenty to get to. Cannot thank you guys enough. Without you, we have no reason to be here. Big thanks to Shannon Griffith, Tyler Smith, and Chris Denari, of course. John, the producer, for keeping us between the white lines. Go out and have yourselves a great day. Thank you so much. And until tomorrow, I will see you on the radio.
Thanks for listening to Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube page for more clips and team coverage of Indiana basketball, football, and more. You can also find full episodes and tons of other content on thehoosier.com. We'll see you next time for another edition of Indiana Sports Beat Radio.